Assalamu alaikum. This is Sharup Mujumdar welcoming you all to the English news from BTV Chattogram. Let's begin with the headlines. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar arrives in Dhaka to strengthen bilateral relations. Election Commission taking preparations to ensure free, fair and credible elections, says Chief Election Commissioner. Looted weapons during mass uprising will be recovered before national election. Conspiracy to sabotage election will remain fail if people to be election-oriented, says Home Advisor. Election may be held in February or earlier, but it must be based on July Charter, brief NCP. Final reform of state structure remains still incomplete, says BNP Secretary General Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir. Israel using Gaza's water supply as a weapon of war to force nearly 1.2 million people out of Gaza City. Dutch Foreign Minister resigns over Israel sanctions deadlock. And Bangladesh A team suffer 7-wicket defeat to Adelaide Strikers in top-end T20 series DXC Arena in Australia. Those were the headlines. Now moving on to the details. Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar arrived in Dhaka this afternoon on a 2-day official visit aimed at strengthening bilateral relations. Dar landed at Hazrat Shahjalal International Airport around 2 p.m. on a special flight and was received by Foreign Secretary Asad Alam Siam, Hazrat Shahjalal International Airport Executive Director Group Captain S.M. Raghib Samad told BSS. Foreign Affairs Advisor Mohammad Tawhid Hussain is scheduled to hold official talks with the visiting Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister on Sunday morning at the State Guest House Podda in the capital, an official of the Foreign Ministry said. The discussions are expected to culminate in the signing of 4 to 5 memorandums of understanding MOUs to boost cooperation in trade, culture, media, training and travel sectors, the official added. Following the talks and the signing ceremony, Foreign Affairs Advisor Tawhid Hussain will brief the media. Visiting Pakistan's Commerce Minister Jam Kamal Khan is also expected to join the bilateral meeting. Later in the evening, both Dar and Khan are scheduled to pay a courteous call on Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus. Diplomatic engagement between Dhaka and Islamabad has gained new momentum following last year's political transition in Bangladesh. Both countries have introduced direct shipping services, eased visa and trade regimes, and are preparing to launch direct flights. Pakistani airline Fly Jinnah has secured approval to operate on the Dhaka-Karachi route, while another carrier, AirSeal, has applied for permission, officials said. The Election Commission is fully preparing to ensure a free, fair and credible election. Today, while holding a discussion meeting with election officials in Rajshahi, Chief Election Commissioner A.M.M. Nasiruddin made this statement. He further added that over 77,000 trained personnel have worked at the field level for updating the voter lists. Ahead of the upcoming national election, Home Advisor retired Lieutenant General Muhammad Jahangir Alam Chaudhary has stated that illegal weapons, including those looted during the mass uprising, will be recovered across the country within a short period. He made the remarks this morning in Dhaka after inspecting the Bangladesh Agricultural Development Corporation cold storage, the Central Seed Testing and Processing Center and Darus Salam Police Station in Mirpur today, highlighting that law enforcement agencies are working to prevent illegal arms not just during elections, but it is a continuous process. The Home Affairs Advisor said that all necessary measures have been taken to recover illegal and looted weapons. He further stated that any conspiracy to sabotage the election will be thwarted and the interim government has taken all necessary preparations for the upcoming election within the announced time frame. NCP Member Secretary Akhtar Hussain said that the election may be held in February or even earlier, but it must be based on the July Charter. There is uncertainty over whether the NCP will participate if the election is held under the existing structure, he opined. Akhtar Hussain made the remarks while speaking at a press conference in the capital today. He said that to sustainably implement the consensus points agreed upon in the July Charter, there is no alternative to drafting a new constitution through a constituent assembly election. Akhtar Hussain called upon political parties to abandon Hasina's inherited 1972 Mujibist constitution and work toward framing a new constitution. BNP Secretary General Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir has said that the final reform of the state structure has not yet been achieved. He said it is not possible to think that the issues we have struggled for so long will be resolved in an instant. Long-standing injustice and oppression cannot be removed overnight. State reform is not possible without clear ideas, goals, and the sincerity of political parties. He made these remarks today while speaking as a chief guest at a discussion meeting titled "How Well is Social Protection Ensured in the Capital?" Journalist Shourab Hassan, Ganashanghati Andolon's chief coordinator Junaid Saki, National Democratic Movement chairman Bobby Hazaz, former BNP lawmaker Rihana Akhtar Ranu, and economist and policy exchange chairman Dr. M. Mashroor Reyes, among others, spoke at the discussion. The BNP Secretary General added that although the mass uprising has ended, the struggle for state reform is underway, and debate and arguments will naturally come in that process. A program titled July 24 in the Eyes of Children and Teenagers was held at the July Revolution Hall of the Chattogram Press Club today to commemorate the martyrs of the July Revolution. City Mayor Dr. Shahdat Hussain attended as a chief guest. Chattogram Press Club Member Secretary Jahidul Karim Kochi, senior journalist Osman Ghani Mansoor and other members of the Chattogram Press Club, among others, were present in the program. Children and teenagers participated in various performances, including songs, dances and poetry recitations dedicated to the memory of the martyrs. Now, international news. After pushing Palestinians to the brink of famine, Israel is now using Gaza's water supply as a weapon of war, deliberately restricting access to force nearly 1.2 million people out of Gaza City. The enclave's water network has been left in ruins. Dozens of wells have been destroyed. Its only desalination plant has been silent since the beginning of the war, and families are now surviving primarily on the limited trickle from the Israeli-controlled Mikrot pipeline. Israel's public broadcaster said the government is considering reducing the amount of water that still flows into northern Gaza while preparing to restore pipelines in the south, a move widely seen as an attempt to drive desperate families to relocate in search of water. Hosni Mahnan, spokesperson for Gaza's municipality, said the city's water infrastructure is on the edge of total collapse. 56 wells were completely destroyed and many others have stopped operating due to lack of fuel and maintenance, he told. Meanwhile, at least 65 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks on Gaza since dawn, medical sources told, including 37 killed in Gaza City, where Israel was escalating attacks in the lead-up to a broader planned offensive. The Foreign Minister of the Netherlands, Casper Veldkamp, has resigned after failing to impose strict sanctions over Israel's military aggression in Gaza and the illegal settlement expansion in the West Bank. On Friday, the leader of the central-right New Social Contract Party announced that he could not reach a consensus on meaningful measures and faced strong resistance within the cabinet. Feldkamp prohibited the travel of two Israeli ministers, Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, and revoked 3 export permits for naval equipment. He warned that the situation in Gaza is deteriorating rapidly and that these weapons could be used for unwanted purposes. After the resignation of the Feldkamp, all ministers and state ministers of his party also stepped down in solidarity. As a result, diplomatic uncertainty arose in the European Union during the ongoing security guarantees for Ukraine and tariff discussions with the United States. Research indicates that ships carrying F-35 fighter jet parts frequently dock at the port of Rotterdam, which are later used in Israeli attacks. The strikes from these F-35 aircraft have turned Gaza into a pile of ruins. At the beginning of this week, the Netherlands jointly condemned the illegal expansion of settlements in the West Bank by Israel, calling it contrary to international law, along with 21 other countries. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov claimed that there are no plans for a meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He provided this information at a time when global media are discussing the potential meeting between Putin and Zelensky. In an interview on Friday, Lavrov stated that there are no plans for a meeting between President Putin and President Zelensky. To convince President Putin to agree to this meeting, the agendas need to be finalized first. So far, nothing has happened in that regard. Lavrov stated that the preliminary agreements necessary for a meeting between Russia and Ukraine had not been made by the time the report was written. He said for the proposed meeting, Washington and Kyiv need to reach preliminary agreements on several policies, including NATO membership and territorial exchanges. However, Zelensky is still in a negative position on each of those agreements. The Russia-Ukraine war has been ongoing for more than 3.5 years. To stop this war, on August 15th, US President Donald Trump met with President Putin in Alaska. 3 days later, on August 18th, he also met with President Zelensky and European leaders at the White House. After that, Trump announced that a meeting between Putin and Zelensky would soon take place under the initiative of the US administration. President Trump also mentioned that the United States would be the host of that possible meeting. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has paid an emotional tribute to soldiers killed while fighting for Russia in its war against Ukraine, saying his heart aches in a rare admission of military losses. Kim made the comments at a ceremony in Pyongyang where he met with commanders of a unit that had fought for Russia in the Western Kursk region, according to North Korean state media KCNA. He praised them as a heroic army, with state media photos showing Kim pinning commendation badges on soldiers' uniforms. Photos released by KCNA also showed Kim pinning badges on the photo frames of deceased soldiers, which lined the wall with each soldier's name written in gold beneath their image.